Welcome to the D-Shift podcast, where we provide inspiration, motivation, and education to help you transition from the challenges of divorce to discover the freedom and ability to live life on your own terms. Are you ready? Let's get this shift started. Hello, and welcome to this episode of the D-Shift, and I am really honored to have guests back again today. And I always think that sometimes we have our first conversation, we just don't cover enough of the topic, and we get off the call and we say to each other, we should have talked about this, this, and this. So this is the catch-up call. I have Keri Gwynne and Ryan Finley, and I'm going to just tell you briefly what they do, because they offer a phenomenal, really comprehensive service for people going through divorce. Keri is the CEO of Starting Point by Freedom, a comprehensive divorce service offering coaching, mediation, and family-focused guidance. Keri is also a certified divorce coach. And Ryan is the founder of Freedom Financial Services Group, a divorce finance advisory firm. Ryan is a CPA, a CDFA, and a CVA, as well as a court-appointed mediator. So when you work with the two organizations that work together, you really have pretty much everything you need for the financial, mediation, and emotional support issues going through your divorce, which I think is wonderful when you can do that. So Ryan and Keri, welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
And I know we covered this a little bit in the first interview, but I do think not everybody is going to be able to listen to two interviews back to back. So if you wouldn't mind, and whoever wants to go first, you're more than welcome to do that. Tell us a little bit about what got you here and why you have decided to focus your considerable expertise on helping people going through divorce.
You want to start? You want me to start?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll start. I unfortunately went through a very difficult marriage. There was some domestic violence that was fueled by alcohol, unfortunately. I needed an order of protection. I needed one also over my daughter. And by the grace of God, we were able to get out safely. But with that also came the trauma of the divorce itself. I had never been in a lawsuit. I was also struggling. My nervous system was struggling to the point where I stuttered. I even lost my ability to walk for a little bit, and it's just out of fear. So I didn't know what I didn't know, and I really needed someone to guide me, not only through the process of the divorce, but how do I even tell my attorney what I need? Or how do I even handle this spiritually? How do I line up everything I'm going through and then get through this? So my divorce lasted over 2 years. It was over $200,000, just my side alone. And it was crippling. So I ended up creating this company back in 2017. It was one through journaling. It was part of my faith that I felt like this was a mission from God that was laid to me. But also, I just am an advocate heart. I have that heart where I swore to myself, and even in my faith, that if I could help anyone else going through this, that I would. How do you navigate this? Since I've been through it. Since then, I've been through a number of classes, a number of healing, but we've also now helped over 500 families walk this. So we just launched our other location in Sarasota, Florida. So it's been quite a journey, and I'm honored to wake up and do this every single day.
Yeah, thank you. And your passion comes through very clear in everything you do. I've listened to several different interviews and things you've been on, and it's so evident. So thanks for sharing that, Keri. Ryan, you're next.
Yeah. Well, my background, I've got a financial background. I was in public accounting for 2 years, and I worked for a company that bought and sold, owned and operated golf courses I worked there for 10 years, and I was in new business development. So that helped me, taught me kind of how to value businesses and how to do due diligence and read financials and everything like that. And I moved from there to real estate, and I worked for a residential developer and then a commercial developer, and I was the chief financial officer of both those companies. So I've been in finance and financial leadership for about over 30 years. And then Keri and I were friends, and so I was working for a big development company at the time, And she started her company, and she said, "Hey, I've got this complex financial situation that I would like to have you look at just to, see if you understand it." And so I went over and looked at it and understood it and explained it to her and explained it to her client. And, I had a good knack for that. And so, when it came time for them to explain it to the attorney, then that happened. And then, so as her more clients came in, I was helping her more often in the evenings and then on weekends. And it got to be self-fulfilling because these people were lost, and I helped them with a kind of a map on, what the direction to go, the financial map of what, how they can operate their expenses or how they're able to make it work. And that made me feel good and realize that, hey, everything that I've done at this point has pointed me in this direction. And it's just, so I was able to uh, change positions, swivel, and left my old job and formed this company, and have been working with Keri and, on my own for about the last 5 years. So I love it. It's a worthwhile experience.
It is. Thank you for sharing that. And it's amazing. I would say of all the people I've interviewed, and I think I've got some 250 interviews in the books now, I'm going to say almost all of them say the reason that they're in divorce is either they went through divorce and they absolutely don't want anybody else to go through the same experience, or they have just really found a heart or a purpose or a passion for supporting people that are going through one of the most difficult periods of time. And absolutely, Ryan, I so support this, that if you don't understand your money, the insecurity and the anxiety and the stress of the divorce just, like, I don't know if it doubles or triples or quadruples or what it does, but it goes through the roof because there's really a fear of what's going to happen to me and my kids through this process. Absolutely.
And I've been through a divorce too, actually two. So I can relate with the person on the other side of the desk.
Right, right. So I know one of the things that we didn't get a chance to speak about last time that we had sort of prioritized to talk about, and something that I think both the financial side and the divorce coaching and mediation and family guidance side really tie in nicely, is what advice would you give, or what strategies or ideas do you have for parents who want to keep their kids' needs front and center and reduce the conflict around divorce so that the damage isn't done to their children through their own animosity and lack of ability to work through this? Because this is a big thing, and sometimes people who are completely at odds with each other will put that aside when they recognize the damage potential that could happen to their kids. So again, I'm opening up the floor, whoever wants to speak on this one.
I'll start on that. And I'm so glad you brought that up. It is the most important thing you can do for your child. So when I walk through a parenting plan and even getting ready to work on a parenting plan with someone, we talk about putting your children first, using that as your lens, separating out the emotions from the logistics of a parenting plan. Because the better your parenting plan is, the more your children get stuck in the middle of having to deal with the disagreements that they're saying. So this involves having, well, people say the devil's in the details. I say the pieces in the details.
Right.
And there needs to be a lot of them, a lot of guardrails and a lot of boundaries. Let's talk about just even some basic ones. So basic ones include doing something as simple that I recommend is communication in one platform. So rather than you're going back and forth texting all the time, which can wear you down, it puts you right back into that marital whatever didn't work. We're back to that, and it becomes about the two of you. Instead, I recommend an online platform. So for example, I like our Family Wizard.
Yes.
Courts love our Family Wizard. And the reason why they love them so much is that you can go in and put up the schedule of your child. Both of you can do that. You can put up your parenting plan there. If there ever needs to be a change, you can document exactly what the change needs to be. And I'm sorry we can't do this because our parenting plan clearly says X, Y, and Z. This is also where you would upload any kind of medical bills, out-of-pocket monies that need to be reimbursed. It will also remind you of details that will ask be put into your parenting plan with your attorney, such as you must put up your medical out-of-pocket medical bill within 10 days of the appointment, and the other party has up to a month, and only a month, to pay it. These scheduled, these details, these important facts are so important to co-parenting well. They
Right.
take away that friction.
Yes.
So other things are, if there has been a high conflict marriage, make sure your parenting plan includes a neutral location. We're not going to drop off in front of mom's house necessarily. That could be a point of contention for your child too. I'm not going to do that. These little comments all
Mhm.
need to go away, but make sure that there's a neutral location. It can be at a fire station. It can be in front of your grocery store, but any place you can take away the conflict and include details right down to, and neither party shall get out of the car. You can
Right.
do a simple wave that shows your child, I still like your parent, or
Yeah.
I'm still, we're still a family, but that you're removing any area that there could be some friction or some harsh words.
Yeah.
We've got, details down to if you have a so I specialize in high conflict personalities as well as divorces and getting clients through that. I also am a divorce strategist. So we lay out the entire strategy for you to work even with your attorney. And that's something that you personally need to work on internally, plus the emotions. But we talk through items for that parenting plan that include details down to if you both have joint decision making and you've got to make a decision quickly and there's a stalemate, whose makes the final word? So what is it? Is it the person that has the child at the moment? But somebody's got to make that decision. Or
Right.
guess what? You're back where you started.
Right.
But the details are just
Yeah.
so important. And we walk through every scenario, and then our clients get to make their best decisions on
Yeah.
co-parenting.
Thank you for that. And I'm just going to throw this in there. And Ryan, I know you probably want to share information here too, but I'm going to tell people right now, if you walk out of a mediation with a 3-page co-parenting plan, you have got a problem. Unless you are completely amicable and you have just agreed that everything will be done by consensus decision making. And for the odd couple, that does work very well. But if there's any kind of conflict or any kind of resistance on one or both parents' part, the longer the co-parenting plan and the more details, the more it's going to save you stress in the long run. So it's well worth taking
Absolutely.
hours to do one rather than just using some boilerplate thing that the mediator provides.
And
Please don't do that.
Thank you for saying that. And please, what we do is get you ready for mediation.
Right.
You need to know walking in there, all of those fine-tuned details, everything. So you can even help your attorney remember, look, they're attorneys. They're great at their job. They know the law, but even they forget things.
Right.
So you come prepared to the table, knowing what could work best for your family.
Yeah,
So.
great. Thank you for that. Ryan, what do you want to add to this about keeping your kids' needs
She's
met?
the best. I don't have much more to add. It's just, the only thing I would say is a lot of people get fixated on being the primary parent or the non-primary parent. And all that means is I have one more night than my spouse does at custody. It doesn't mean a lot as far as child support, at least in Tennessee and a lot of the other states. The child support is a calculation. Unless there's a big variance, maybe a 90% for one parent and 10% for the other, or 80, it doesn't really change the child support that much. So a lot of people get fixed. I don't want to pay so much child support. Well, it doesn't. It's a calculation. It's not a negotiation. It's if you make this and they make that, and you have this number of days, it just calculates out. There's not a lot of say so that you have in it.
Yeah. And the other, I'm playing the kind of the nasty person here, but I'm going to say this. if you are paying child support, don't, it's for your child. It's to help your child. You're not giving something out of your pocket to your ex-spouse so they can go buy a Mercedes or take a world cruise. This is to take care of your children. And I think, on the same side, the parent that's going to be receiving support should make a clear effort to make sure that that money is used for the well-being of the child, which may mean using some of it to, buy the child new clothes and get, pay for field trips and all this kind of stuff. If those aren't things that are addressed separately in that co-parenting plan. And I've seen them where the parents have agreed on the standard support. And then they've also put in, and we will both contribute $100 a month into a joint account where we can access for unexpected, costs that come up throughout the month. So there's lots of cool things you can do with the money.
Absolutely. And being creative, I love it. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know that one of the other things we wanted to talk about, and this is taking like a complete 180, so this does not track necessarily with what we just talked about, but this is one thing that we didn't get a chance to talk about in the first interview. And I think this is Ryan's area of expertise, is the whole idea of forensic accounting. And when does it make sense to spend money and to spend the time and the stress on doing forensic accounting to check if there are hidden assets, squirreled away money, cryptocurrency wallets, and all the other stuff that people can have. What are your thoughts on that, Ryan?
A lot of it depends on the size of the estate. If it's a large estate, we're dividing up. If it's something where people have a house, a couple of cars, and things like that, it doesn't make a lot of sense. But the large divorces, a lot of those, or mid-size even. A lot of it is if there's indicators that if they're not honest with you, if they're not disclosing all the investments you have, if you're going through a divorce and you don't know what you own and what you have and what your investments are, if you haven't been privy to the finance discussions and how much money's coming in and how much money's going out as far as monthly expenses and stuff like that, that's something that everybody needs to know. But if that's not being disclosed, then maybe something's being hidden.
Right.
I like to say that sometimes hiring a forensic accountant, it's sometimes what you don't find is a big indicator as what you do find. So if you think about this, a marriage it's two best friends, trust between two things. When they're going through a divorce, that trust is broken, and if somebody thinks that their spouse is doing things that they shouldn't, if they're spending dissipation, which is spending non-marital money on non-marital assets, then that's dissipation. But, if there's hidden assets, I'll find them. And there's ways that we track that. There's ways that we do that. Sometimes we find a lot of things. Sometimes we don't find things. But the time when we don't find something, then that adds a little bit of trust back into that relationship, because there's trust, that trust is broken, and if we find out that, that nothing has been hidden and everything's been disclosed, then that gives credibility back to that person. But a lot of times we do find stuff. A lot of times people prepare for a divorce, meaning that if this person doesn't have access or knowledge of our financial information, I'm going to move money to this account, or I'm going to change this investment into my name, and I'm going to move it over to this other broker. Things like that are hidden. If there's, to make sure all the income's coming in, if there's rental properties, if there's dividends, if I get a bonus, we track all that goes into the checking account. A lot of families will have an operating account where the paychecks go into, and then the expenses get paid out of that. And then they'll have another account for savings or investments and stuff like that. But we want to make sure all that money's coming in. We'll look and see at their paycheck to see if that net paycheck was deposited into that account. If it wasn't, where did it go? We'll look at that account. We'll look at all the accounts. We'll look at all the investments. We've got tools that we can upload into our program, and that spits out a spreadsheet that we can track. It gives us the detail of where is this a wire transfer go? That's not one of their bank accounts. Let's ask and have them explain where that money went. It
Right.
may be a legitimate purpose, but then it may not be. But if you start seeing a little bit each time, sometimes it's breadcrumbs that you're following. You're not following big lumps of cash, but you're following breadcrumbs. But they lead you to where the investment is, or the hidden bank account, or things like that. So
Right.
um, that's kind of, I guess I kind of went on a
No,
little
no, I
tangent.
appreciate that. I appreciate that
Okay.
because there is always that like balance you have to do. Like, does it make sense to spend however many thousands of dollars to work with a forensic accountant, or tens or more of thousand, depending on the size of the assets and how much digging that has to happen, based on what might potentially be there. And I think you're right. I think quite often, well, I have a client I know for a fact whose ex-spouse, soon to be ex-spouse, convinced her that there were hidden assets so she would spend that money, only to find out there was absolutely nothing there. And that was total manipulation. And
Yeah.
thankfully, he did a lot of this stuff by email. And so they were able to go back in the mediation and say, and we want reimbursement for this. And believe it or not, they settled with that. So I was really happy to see that happening. So, yeah. Now, here's where these two seemingly diverse topics start to dovetail together. And that is, how do you help people prepare with that financial understanding and the emotional part for mediation? Because this is a big part of what I do with my clients too. So can you both talk to how do you prepare a client for mediation with those two big issues, the finances and the emotions and the kids? I'm going to throw the kids in there because they're really with the emotions. What's a general overview of how that would look?
So this is assuming that we're not doing the mediation
Right.
ourselves.
Yes. Right. Because
Exactly.
you can't have a dual role if you're a mediator. You have to be a complete neutral in the room. So absolutely.
Exactly. So, when it comes to my side of it, I'm really focusing on the emotions of making sure that your nervous system is regulated. So we do everything from nervous system regulation so that you can make your best decision. You're not going to be angry or reactive or bursting to throw in the towel too early, because it can be an exhausting process, or to think it's your way or the highway. You're going to have to give and take. So let's get you prepared, not only emotionally, but now let's get you prepared with, do you have your bank statements? Brian will go more into depth about the actual mediation itself, but do you have all of the pieces you need to have ready so that if the mediator or your attorney says, oh my gosh, what about X, Y, and Z? And did I really have, you've got it right there. You're completely prepared. We also talk about simple things like what's going to keep you calm during that mediation, because the mediator is going to spend perhaps an hour and a half with you, but then turn around and have an hour and a half with your spouse on the other side. What are you doing in that time? So, practical things like you're bringing pictures of your children to keep you focused on what is the most important thing there for you today. What brings you comfort? Do you have, those medicine balls that you're squeezing? I mean, we talk through every single inch of it, but you also know, walking in there, what do you need to live on? What is your best scenario to what is your, oh my gosh, let's just be done today scenario?
Right.
So, and that's what I do on my side of the fence. And then parenting plans, of course, we've got you ready.
Right.
We talk through all discussion points. We've got those pieces laid out.
And from a financial perspective, up into the mediation, there's a lot of homework that we do. We put together a marital balance sheet. We put together income and expenses. We've got a pretty good understanding of the financial picture when we walk in there. And so what I'm focused on in mediation is what the end result is. What's a good proposal? What's a good distribution of assets? What's financial peace for this person?
Mm-hmm.
If this is their expenses and this is their income, and we know that child support is going to be around this range, do they need spousal support? What does that look like? And how long can we expect to have that? And is that maintainable? If they're married for 20 years, can we ask for 10 to 12 years of alimony or spousal support? There's variations there of what the court will accept. And so we'll look at proposals, and so we're prepared when we walk in there that here's what we are asked for, and here's what we'll accept. And as the attorneys go back and forth, if people out there aren't aware of how mediation works, you'll meet with one party first. You'll get a proposal from them. You'll take it over to the other party. And then a lot of times they'll counter and you'll go back and forth with these offers. And so I have a big spreadsheet, a big screen that I take into these mediations, and I have a spreadsheet. And here's what this offer looks like. Here's what this proposal looks like.
You sit beside them and their attorney and educate them.
I do. I sit, yes, right. And a lot of the times the attorneys are saying, well, if we do this, what does this look like? So I'm solving the math problem in the spreadsheet, and everybody can see it. Instead of it just saying, well, I'll give you this and I'll give you this. In real time, we're calculating out what that does, how that affects this person. Are they able to, if, there's different kinds of alimony. Sometimes if the spouse isn't able to pay them monthly alimony, then we take a lump sum. So there'd be a disproportionate allocation of assets that we give this person, so that in case, they don't get the monthly alimony, they get a lump sum, which is in lieu of that, which means I don't get all this each month, but I've got this lump sum that I can draw upon, or I can invest, and it would provide and fill in the gaps.
Right.
So that's the main tool. So I'm focused more on the outcome, and and my client, how they're going to be. I want them to have peace and to know when they walk out of this mediation, they're going to be okay. And if they've got peace, and it's like, okay, Ryan, thank you for, showing me that. Thank you for fighting for me. Thank you for explaining that to the attorney and to the mediator, to the other side, what that means and why I need that.
Right. Yeah. And you can see now why after Ryan and Keri sharing this information, why this kind of a comprehensive team on your side when you go into divorce or go into mediation, whether it's relatively cooperative or whether it's highly adversarial, is really going to give you really everything you need to make a decision whether you negotiate at the table or walk away, and know that if you're negotiating at the table, you're going to walk out of there and have what you need to survive. Maybe not everything you want, but you're going to get what you need to survive. This has been fantastic. Again, I think we could go on for another couple of hours on this, because I know this is all kind of our focus. So before I get you off,
tell you good stories.
Yeah, I know, no stories today.
Scenarios we've seen, yes.
Yeah. Before we get off the call, though, I would like you each, if you wouldn't mind, just kind of summarize, or if you want to do it together, however you want to do this, what's the most important thing that you would like listeners today to keep at the top of their mind when they go on about planning for how they're going to handle their divorce mediation?
I want to start with.
I've got a couple of them, and I'm going to get into Keri's, category a little bit, is get matched up with the right attorney. If this is something that you think you can work with your spouse, find an attorney that's a negotiator. So often we find these people that, they get their advice, and I know I'm stealing your word.
No, please.
So
you're doing great.
Is that, they tell them, you're going to get the toughest, meanest attorney there is. We're going to fight this out. You don't always need that. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't, but just find the attorney that fits your situation. If this is going to be a fight, then find that attorney. If it's not, find someone that is able to negotiate and is good to mediate, because you do have to parent with these people post-divorce.
Great message, Ryan. Yes. Keri, what do you want to?
I agree. Preparation will bring you confidence. When you slow down and get the right people in your corner to help you prepare, you will walk in there feeling so confident. Not that you're going to get everything you want. That's not what I mean. But at least there will be some peace in knowing you've done your part in walking in for your future, for your children, for co-parenting, even right down to when your children get married. You'll be able to be in that same room with that other parent. You'll be able to celebrate because you've done this the right way. So take your time, get prepared. We're here to help. There are some great professionals around the nation that are here to help. But do take the time and spend the money. And I'm not saying spend the time, but spend the money. This is the time to be prepared for your future. Your future and your children, they depend on it.
Yeah. Wonderful. And that's a wonderful message for all of us to keep in mind, even as we're guiding people through this. The more we can prepare people to handle everything, the better off they're going to be. So thank you both again for your time. It is always such a pleasure to talk with you, and you share such a wealth of information for people. Before I let you off the call, though, really quick, what's the best way to reach out to you? I know you both have separate companies, so if you both want to give the website for your company, and I will make sure all of that is in the show notes.
Absolutely. So it's Starting Point by Freedom. You can reach us for a free consult, a free 30-minute consult at startingpointfreedom.com. You can also email us at info@startingpointfreedom.com. And you can call directly at 941-324-8070.
And my company, my website is www.freedomfsg.com. And you can reach me at ryan@freedomfsg.com or info@freedomfsg.com. And my phone number is 941-315-5535.
Thank you both for that. And it is a great website. Tons of resources on both of your websites. I took a look at it after our last call. And just thank you so much for coming back. I took a look at both of them. Thank you so much for coming back. It was wonderful to have this conversation with you again.
Thanks for
Thanks for having us.
We really appreciate you. And enjoy you too.
It's so nice to talk to people that are all on the same brainwave about this whole divorce thing. So, and I want to thank all the listeners today for tuning in, for giving your time and listening in. And don't forget to tune in to the next D-Shift episode. Thanks for listening and supporting the D-Shift podcast. If you would like to attend live trainings by our amazing guests and have a chance to ask questions and get answers from our experts, join the D-Shift crew. For more details and to sign up, head on over to www.divorcecoachforwomen and click on the podcast page.